coming into 2017, there were a lot of startups that were issuing these digital assets. And through 2018, it was sort of a little bit of the same. We also started to see a lot of experimentation with institutionals. And that's the one thing that we're seeing consistent in 2019 is there's a lot of institutions taking a look at the space, looking at different pieces of infrastructure that they need to stand up to start issuing digital assets on the blockchain. And there's a lot of activity in that space that we're seeing.
Now, we've been talking about sort of your travels, and you've got a really unique insight from your global focus to how people are responding or the different appetites for security tokens and being involved in the space from different places around the world. What are you seeing in Asia in particular from maybe both sides of the deal?
Yeah, so I think that the security token market's being driven from an innovation standpoint here in the US. The Asian markets are kind of just a little bit a wait-and-see approach. Let's watch the Americans do this, and then kind of catch on once we see some momentum coming out of the US. But that said, they are still very sophisticated, understand the market well, and the potential for this market. We all identify that the security token market is going to dwarf the size of the cryptocurrency market, and that sentiment is felt also in Asia, where crypto is very popular and probably more popular than it is here in the States. But we've spoken with multi-billion-dollar asset managers in Asia with mandates to buy security tokens now. I think they're still exploring what kind of products they want to buy, but they do see it as a means to have greater and wider access to investment products in different parts of the world, which otherwise through traditional markets would be harder to access.
We're still at the very beginning of the industry, which is great for anyone that wants to join because it's a fabulous industry with a lot of potential to really revolutionize the entire way we look at money and investments.
Yeah, I think the world of securities is very complex. There's a lot of different licenses you need to do different things. I think the good sign is when it comes to institutions, they already have the regulatory cover to do a lot of these things. They can take a more sandbox approach and start with experiments and then go larger.
Right.
And so I think it's a lot of figuring out what all the pieces are for the institutions to continue to do business as usual, but perhaps augment it with additional products.
So what do you think is the inherent promise of security tokens, I guess sort of for humanity, for the world?
Yeah.
That what's going to be different now that there's such a thing as digitized securities that can be traded?
Sure, so I guess a lot of people talk about all of the advantages like 24/7 trading, fractionalization, et cetera, but what most people that have worked in the world for a long time realize is you probably could have achieved all of those before. An exchange could have stayed open 24/7. It
Right.
probably could have listed anything globally. And if you wanted to fractionalize something, you could just put a piece of property into an SPV and issue millions of shares. Those things could kind of been done before. But I think what the ICO craze did, if nothing else, was showed people that there's a whole generation of people, and I don't mean it as an age thing, I just mean a mindset of people that want to be more entrepreneurial, want to have access to capital markets. So it showed that people wanted to go to capital markets with their ideas, and it also showed that there were individuals that wanted to back these companies directly. So I think you saw that that what you had was global entrepreneurs wanted access to capital markets and global investors wanted access to product. So I think that came about from the ICO point of view. The issue with ICOs is the way that they're structured is, you're owning a discount or a service or a product in the future, but it's so hard to get what that underpinning value is.
Yes.
Whereas digital securities are so different. Most of the time let's say you've got a property, it has a value. If you've got a fund, it has a NAV. If you've got a company, it has a valuation metric, a balance sheet, whatever it may be. And because these are real valuations, it means that the value of the token is underpinned by something. As a result of that, the volatility will come right down. And it will give investors a lot more comfort, especially institutional investors. Sorry, so just to answer your question a bit more over, I think it's
it's fantastic.
It's a global market, so it has the ability to really open capital markets up globally to everyone. So you can get an individual in the UK invest in a small amount in a security based out of South Korea or wherever it may be.
Right.
And I think it's quite that's what I get really excited about.
What are the biggest obstacles to success?
So there are several, some can discuss regulation and custody challenges, but in my opinion, the one which is the most painful today is when I approach institutions, for example, and I tell them that, the whole promise of tokenization is increased liquidity. And they understand how, tokenizing can, streamline the back office process and make it more efficient. And that
Sure.
they get it, not right away, but after, 4 or 5 meetings, they start to understand it, But the biggest challenge right now is to say, okay, great, so it's more efficient, but who are the buyers? Where is this liquidity coming from? So I tell them that there are very exciting new, ATS platforms out there, but, their trading volume is not extremely high as of right now. They are growing very rapidly, and I'm very excited for them, but it'll take a little while before I could say that they have the volume which can really guarantee increased liquidity. So that right now is the biggest challenge, but we're in the right direction.
There are many things that I think are going to be revolutionary, but some of the low-hanging fruits are obviously you're going to significantly minimize the cost of back office and paper transaction, which is huge for financial institutions.
Absolutely. We often come to events like this in the security token space or in the crypto space, and something that stands out to me is a lot of people look like me.
Right.
What do you think about the demographics of our space, and why is it that way, and what do you think?
I think demographics are important, and we're trying to change, the demographics of the space. Clearly, that's one of my kind of mandates in life.
Yeah.
But what do we need to do to that? We all need to be open and just communal, and we need to be collaborating with all different types of people. And since this is a global space, we just need to be able to collaborate more globally and kind of communicate and grab everyone that we can across all the different demographics, because everyone has different thinking and everyone has different ideas and everyone has different capabilities, and it's important to embrace all of that in this space, because the hard problems aren't going to get solved just by certain types of thinking. And we know that looking at Google, Facebook, we can name some of these other companies as well, that when you kind of have uniform thinking, you get uniform speak and uniform kind of ideas and uniform creation. So in order to get different type of creation, you want to kind of have a diversity of thought, because that's what real diversity is a diversity of thought, and you can only do that by listening and talking to many different types of people.